It's the Sal and Rich Show. I'm your announcer, Artie Intel. Today, Sal and Rich welcome songwriting Shane. Shane is a member of the National Academy of Recording Arts and Sciences, multi-award-winning singer, songwriter, musician, producer, and recording artist, Global Music Awards, Academia Awards, HMMA Awards, Wind International Film Festival Awards, and Indie Music Channel Awards, and so much more. Sal and Rich start the show.
So, Rich, why is she talking to us? I mean, we're not worthy.
I know. I feel extremely insignificant. You know what I mean?
So do I.
Gosh.
Welcome, Marianne.
If you don't stay down to earth, you're never going to be successful in anything. You have to just be yourself.
We're on the earth. Believe me. I'm not like that. That's
trying to reach for the stars. Yeah. Well, I'm glad we could do this. Welcome to the show. And this is another PVI edition of the Sal and Rich Show where we take a look at former classmates and chat with them about their experiences in their life. And clearly, Marianne has had quite a journey, as she says.
Unbelievable.
So
one of the things I'd like to start off with is, Marianne, how did you get into music? What brought you to that?
I wish I knew. When I was 3 years old, I just woke up one day and I just remember bugging my parents for a piano. And they kept saying, "What are you talking about? You don't even know what a piano is. Where's she getting the piano thing?" And I just wanted to play piano. And I remember we had a cousin in our family and he was building an organ. And actually his name was Paul, and that was the brother of Father Joe Narciso. That was my cousin. And
really?
so when I went there, and I was fascinated. He had all these parts all over the living room floor. And my aunt was going crazy with it. But he was very into engineering and all this stuff. So that made it worse. So I wanted a piano. I just wanted a piano. So finally, being the firstborn on both sides of the family, guess what happened at Christmas time? They all chipped in and got me this piano. And my mom was like, "You better play this thing. You know how much this thing cost?" Well, guess what? She couldn't get me off the piano. So that's where it started. And people thought that I was taking lessons. "Oh, she plays so beautifully. What is that song?" My mom was like, "She's making it all up." And I just had this love of hearing all the different tones and stuff. And still today.
Interesting. So you didn't start off with lessons at all? You kind of was self-taught?
Yeah. Then she had me take lessons. And it wasn't pop music like I wanted, the Beatles and all that. So I had to do classical lessons. And my dad was kind of the silent party because he was like, "I don't know, whatever she wants, you know." Because I was a good kid, you know, and I just wanted to play. So I had to take the classical lessons, Beethoven, all, and then I got really into it. And when I had to babysit my brothers and my sister, when she'd have to go to the store to shop right back then, I couldn't wait to babysit because when they left and I saw that white station wagon leave the driveway, man, I put the radio on and I'm singing, you know, "Stop in the name of love." You know, I was playing it. I had my brothers and my sister singing and dancing. I was teaching them steps like they were on a show.
Yeah.
Look out for when my dad's car was coming back and we had to take all the groceries out of the car. But thank God that she made me take those lessons because that's what made me the songwriter that I am today.
VI, the piano?
Yeah, I played for a few spring festivals.
Okay.
But they didn't teach piano there. So when I took a music course, I had to play the viola.
Oh, the viola.
But I began to love it when I heard it. My little part that I was playing, because it was so annoying that it was like, you know, do, re, mi. I'm like, you know, I wish I could do on the viola what I do on the piano. But when I heard the sound incorporated with the rest of the string orchestra, it fascinated me, and I began to love the viola, but I haven't picked it up since then.
Yeah, I was wondering because I was in the band in high school, and I just didn't remember you. But again,
I remember.
it was like 52 years ago. So I was
Yeah,
playing sousaphone with Tommy Quayle, and that was
yeah,
um,
yeah. The Quayle
You got
brothers.
and he got run over by Mike Bush.
in the end
Ah,
zone. That's
yeah,
another
It's
podcast.
another podcast, but
Exactly. Yeah. So funny.
remember
So then
the Quayle brothers? The whole family. They were so talented.
I grew up with them. Tommy,
Yeah.
obviously, in the same class, and Bobby, I know. And we had Jimmy on because he wrote a book. He's a sommelier plus musician. The whole family's so damn talented.
really smart.
It's
Yeah.
crazy. So tell us about your journey to LA. How did that all come about?
So, through the course, like after school, I was working for the government, and after like about maybe 10 years, I decided that I want to really try to see what I can do with my music. Uh, and everybody kept saying there's no money in it. What are you doing? My family was so upset when I quit that really good job with SEPTA, Southeastern Pennsylvania Transportation Authority, because I really had a good job. I was the right arm for the general manager and all the department heads, and I was relaying accurate information. I'm an industrial relations specialist, and I learned so much about the whole animal, the organization, and departmentalization. And they put me through school to, higher my education in that. And I was ranking up, and getting a good salary. But this music thing inside of me was haunting me. So I tried it for a few years. I became an accepted AGAC member in New York, and that was the American Guild of Actors and Composers. And that's where I was blessed with a stage name. They just said, Marianne Teresa Branca Jervis just ain't going to sell albums, and I'm like, huh? So,
It's like
so I have a
Sal
guy,
Fazzolari. It's not. This doesn't ring well.
right? Well, Sal Basilari, that sounds musical to me. Uh, but you could get away with that. But I was like, but God gave me these songs. So they just said Shane, and I said Shane. Oh, Marianne Shane, that's pretty. That's no, just Shane. Okay, that's a guy's name, right? So, and it's funny because when I saw the movie, which I never really was into when I saw it, and all I remember is Shane, come back, and that's what they were saying in New York. Um,
Great
when I,
movie.
Yeah, it's a great movie. Yeah.
yeah, well, it was, and also I wear the hat. That's my MO, and I didn't even see the movie yet, but I used to walk around the streets, going to there. I was kind of hip, going to New York. Hold on, I'm going to show you what it looked like. I got the hat. Hold
Okay.
on. Okay.
So you were walking the streets of New York with that hat.
Here's the Shane. Okay,
The
I'm
Shane
ready,
look.
guys.
Oh, look at that.
I like it. Yeah, it's cool.
So what year was this? You were doing all this?
That was in the late '80s. And there was a lot going on under this hat. I was delivering pizzas. I was DJing. I was doing so many things just so that I can record in the studios. And I was welcome in so many of the great studios in New Jersey and Philadelphia. Um, and I was actually in with Gamble Hub,
Oh,
Philly
really?
International Records.
Wow.
But they were stealing my ideas. And
What was the name of this studio?
PIR Records, Philly International Records.
Okay.
So I had enough of that,
Huh.
and I decided that I wanted to get away from all the corruption, and I went into law enforcement. And then I picked State Police, Department of Corrections, and that's where I saw the worst corruption that I ever saw in my life, and it wasn't the ones in khaki. And I'm going to leave it there because I wrote a book about it and I was in all the news because it was my peers that put me through hell. So
What's the name of the book?
Yeah.
it's called Ain't Gonna Take No More. But then I went back into the music business. I took so much. Anyway, that'll be the second book. Um, I made a mistake. No, you just keep on going. And immediately, almost immediately, when I went back into my music and I had a lot of songs under my belt, I got calls and emails and texts from the Grammy organization from, in LA and Philadelphia, asking me to be a member of the Grammys and work on projects, group projects with the other Grammy artists. And then within like a couple days, I received an email after they saw all the things I've done in music and stuff like that. And they asked me to submit my information to become a voting member. So I'm like, a voting member? Like, I'm going to vote on people like Paul McCartney, and
Yeah.
who am I? But it's all about, yeah, right? It's all about the music, the artists, supposedly. So then I was urged to go to LA. They go, that's where you need to be. So I packed up and I moved and I went to LA and I won a lot of awards there.
About what year was that? You moved to Los Angeles.
That was about 2015. I began working with this major producer who I'm still working with, and that is Andy Kravitz. And he went to LA, so I kind of followed, and it felt, like it fit like a glove because I can just walk out of my apartment, and I was welcomed in Studio City Sound, the Speakeasy, Henson Studios, major studios like that, because I didn't have an attitude. I was very respectable, didn't come in with an entourage, didn't have drugs and Cavassier, I was just there to do my work. And I was always ready. My tracks, I made them as perfect as I could at home so that when I got in the studio, it was easy for all of us to just track that piano track. Maybe one time I got it perfect, or maybe it took two or three, but that was the basis for my songs. And then I worked with Andy, and he put all the glitz and glitter and different sound bites and all.
So you recorded at the Henson Studios?
Yep.
Wow.
So that's the same studio like Paul McCartney recorded at a couple times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the old the Red Skelton studio. That's
Yeah.
where he did his show.
Too.
Marianne, how expensive is it to be in a studio? I mean, how much does that cost? Yeah.
Well, it depends. Some people, some producers will charge you per song.
Okay.
I, because of my reputation and because I was easy to work with the producers, I saved money by having a major producer, Marco Sanzini, who worked with Henson, and he was commissioned from Italy to come here and work in the studios. And he actually came to my home. So he only charged me, it was, we'll just say like $50 an hour,
Oh,
which
wow.
meant,
Yeah.
so it adds up. But if you have your piano, my foundation is the piano because that's what I write my songs on. Then I choose the tempo and I choose the beat.
When you go into the studio, you've got a demo tape, and you do the best you can on that tape to reflect what the final product will look like, and then you play it for the producer. Is that how it works?
No, I walk in, I go, hook me up. They're like, what are we doing today? They'll call you. What are you doing today? I'm going to lay the piano track for a new song I'm doing. Okay, they have me all set up. Everything's set up. But I lay down the piano track. I try to get that done like that. Then when I sit there, I might hear other sounds and I'll say, hold on, I hear like a harp.
You can get pretty tedious, working through a song. How long does it take you to do an album? I think you've done 7 or 8, working on your 8th album, if I remember correctly.
When you're under the gun to push out an album for the Grammys,
Mm-hmm.
and you have, let's say, right now they're all like choosing who, promoting their songs right now actually, and sending me all type of tracks and links to listen to their music because they hope that they get voted to be on the ballot.
Right.
And that can last all the way through to December. That's a job in itself. So you've got all that time. So then the Grammys come around. In the meantime, you're working on the next album. So you have, we'll just say when that's all done, basically like January to July. That's not much to
Yeah.
do a whole album
Right.
and get it and have it ready to be submitted to the Grammys, have it approved, copyrighted because they want that copyright number, and you have to have all that in order. So that you're talking like 6 months. I had to push out an album when you're working with the Grammys, and it better be Grammy level.
Right.
Otherwise, don't waste your money. They're not going to listen. You can't
Right.
compete. And don't put yourself through it in a nice way. I'm saying it in a nice way.
Right.
Don't, even for myself. My stuff wasn't ready, and I'm not pushing it because I had to deal with a lot, like moving out of LA and coming to West Virginia.
So it's almost like you're reading each other and you get into a rhythm, and that speeds up the process in a sense.
Like you and Rich.
Well, I got to slap him around a little bit because he falls asleep.
And you have fun with it. Like there's no blame. You're not like,
No.
oh, you did this. It's just like you get to know each other. And that's
Right.
the process.
Right.
Because not all producers know, even major producers, they have to get to know you. And some of them they're so high strung, or they have ADHD, or they've got all
Yeah.
types of things because you don't know what they've been through
Right.
that drew
Right.
them into music. And I had a producer in Philly, and I'm going to say it. I was working with the Hooters. They're
Oh,
basically
really?
on, yeah, they were basically on all my music. Fran Smith is my bass player.
Wow.
David Usakinan has drummed on my albums.
Cool.
And John Sr., the producer, I'm going to tell you, when I first got in the studio, I wasn't allowed to come near him. I had to sit in a chair behind him. So I was like, huh? Okay. So, and
Huge ego.
he's high strung, but
Yeah.
he's supposed to be the best, or the Hooters wouldn't have him.
Right.
And so I had to go through that process. And then I would watch him like over his shoulder, and like he was annoyed with that, you know. And he was like so intent on every little thing. I would like call Fran. I go like, "Yo, Fran, what's going on with this producer? Like, I'm not even." And he would just laugh. And then sometimes the Hooters would come in the studio, so they walk in and they look in to see who's in there, and then they would just see me and then just shake their head. But then I graduated when I was allowed to come closer to him and talk. Then I was allowed to sit next to him. And then we worked on the songs together. And guess what? Then I said, by the way, John, I'm going to be leaving for LA. And he almost crapped in his pants because he's like, what? What do you mean? Why would you do that?
So
You
you
don't
guys
need
are
to do
best
that. We
buds.
can do it all here.
Yeah.
But you didn't help me, John. I didn't say that, but you didn't
Right.
help me like you could have,
Right.
and I'm not getting any younger. So, right?
So
But
let me. I hate to interrupt you, but there's something that you said earlier that I'd like to go back to about stealing songs or stealing your IP. I saw a reel yesterday, and it was a woman, and she apparently is a songwriter, but the reel didn't identify her. She was complaining that she was in a studio recording, and I guess it was out in LA, and Eric Clapton was in the other studio, and they're playing and laying down the tracks for Layla. And she said to her producer, she said, "That's my song." She said, I wrote some of that. And producer shrugged. She took it all the way. It took years, but she took it all the way up to Robert Stigwood because that was the label. It was on SRO, I guess it was. And he said, "What are you going to do about it? Good luck." I mean, he just basically threatened her. And so it was interesting insight into the business, as you were alluding to, that I guess that's more prevalent than you would imagine, because you think there's a
You
bit of
have to get
respect.
ready. Yeah, you have to be prepared to accept that. Um, my experience was when I was working with Bruce Hawes in the studio, and I was working on in Philly International Records, um, and um, I was working on a song that was new, and by the end of the night, it was on a TV program, and I'm trying to think of the name of the show. No, Arsenio Hall. They did stuff with him, but it was in living color.
Oh yeah, yeah, on Fox. Yeah.
Okay.
So they did this number on in living color, and I was watching it because they were talking about editing parts for in living color.
Yeah.
So I started watching it, and I'm sitting there, and I wanted to throw up in my mouth. It was what I had just recorded, and he had to
Wow.
come up with a bridge and a hook, and there it was, and there's nothing I could do about it.
Wow. That's
But
awful.
So
the,
when you create a song, right, and you're
yeah,
going to start recording it, there's no copyright immediately. You have to worry about this.
well, what you
Somebody
can
stealing it, or
Well, you have to be clear all the time in your brain. You have to be the business person first, is what I do. You email them, and you have a record of it in your email, which holds up in court, and you say, this is what
okay,
the frame or the bones of the song is that I'm working on, that I recorded, that I wrote. Um, like 9/5/24 at 9 a.m. And I have a record and they have a record. They already know where I'm going. Because you
Okay.
wouldn't write an email like that if you didn't know what you're talking about. So they would say, like, she's got lawyers. And you would think twice before stealing from me. But that doesn't mean that if you're a big name and you're at a loss for a new album or new songs because you don't have it in you because you've been partying too much,
mm-hmm.
and you're with a lot of shady people, because that's
Yeah.
usually what happens. Because
Right.
if you have integrity, you wouldn't do it, I would hope.
Right.
But yeah, you just pray to God, and and maybe because of that happening, people will want to work with you because they'll be like, that's a shame, I heard what happened. But then they also realize if you're on that level where somebody like that's stealing from you, let's work with you. What do you got next? And this time we'll protect you, hopefully. But
Where did you live in Los Angeles?
I was in Valley Village, which is in North Hollywood. It
Oh,
was like
okay.
borderline. It was Hollywood, Sherman Oaks,
Yeah,
Works.
yeah. My son lived in West Hollywood for a while.
Oh,
It was
yeah, it's very
right
expensive
near
there.
there, and well, we paid for it. He was in college, but
Yeah.
he worked for Paramount for a while
Okay.
as an internship, and it was a nice area. It was an
Yeah.
exciting area to live in.
Now it's not.
Now it's not.
Yeah,
We
that's
were
what
out
I've
there
heard.
last year, and it's
Yeah.
in pretty bad shape. The entire Los Angeles
Oh,
area.
and that's why I'm out.
Is that why you left? Really?
Absolutely. They don't want it. I had enough of when I spoke about my music, which is incorporated with my God given talent. Of course, that's where it stems from, and my God.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want to hear it. So I only was able to mention that about God and thanking God for my talent is when they'd say, let's talk about your album. Where did you come up with No Fear, or I'll Climb the Highest Stairs, or Unite All Hearts for Peace. So I was able to bring it up then, and they were fine with it. But don't say Jesus. I don't say Jesus. You'll be like,
Really?
oh,
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a
I
shame.
didn't care. And I
So
Yeah.
told
how
them.
many albums did you do?
I did 5, and it's going to be my sixth one. Wait
Okay.
a minute. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, it's my sixth one coming up.
When you expect that to drop?
Working on the last song, and I just made sure that I spent days going through all of my BMI catalog. I have almost 400 songs I've written, which doesn't mean
Wow.
that I'm going to record them all. It doesn't work like that. Um,
So, how do you distribute the album? Do you work with a record company like Capitol or Sony or?
I have my own label, which is White Grand Publishing, but I
Okay.
also have BMI, which I chose, and I had to like make sure I submit them all to BMI. So if they're aired, somebody will be the, uh, the communicator for my royalties, which it's ridiculous. People that have number one hits, they get a check for 3 cents. It's just, but it's
Hmm.
just registered with BMI. I don't do it for the money. You'll end up committing suicide, and then you'll be wondering why. It's just the fact. You're not
I
going to
know.
get it. But then I also had to go through my copyright, my whole catalog of all the songs that are copywritten, and then submitting all my newest songs now. And I had to double check them because you can't trust anybody, not even Washington.
Yeah,
You
that's for
can't
sure.
trust Washington?
I got a letter
Hard to
saying that
believe.
Wow.
I got a listen. Oh yeah, right. But I got a letter saying that they they couldn't input my songs in this certain album that I sent in because there was a fear of anthrax. This was years ago, and it immediately got trashed.
Oh my
Really?
God.
Come
Unbelievable.
on.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
have a record of it, and I also have a record that I did send it. So that's your problem.
You're able to vote then for the Grammys, right?
I I didn't renew my membership this year,
Okay.
but I'm still listening to the music. And then when I input this album, after all the Grammy hype is over with, and this will be for this coming year that's coming up, the present one,
Hmm.
that's when I have to go through the whole rigmarole because now they require somebody to refer you and approve you and that you've been in good
Gosh.
standing. They made
That
it
takes forever.
difficult.
So, can we step back to 9/11? Go back a few years because
Yeah.
you and I spoke 2 years ago, and I think ever since then I've been telling Sal we need to get her on the show. I
Yeah.
said she's really interesting. But the 9/11 part, you were working for who when you went up to work at the
I
9/11
was
site?
it was an FBI training that I went through while I was a state police officer with the Department of Corrections at Riverfront State Prison in Camden with the gun towers. Um,
Yeah.
so, and I started training with the critical incident stress management team. He called me and pulled me aside. He heard all about me and all the stuff I was going through, and he said, "You're absolutely a candidate for the team I'm trying to put together. You have courage, you have respect, you're hanging in there, and I don't know how you're doing that job. Knowing that you've got, there was a hit on my life by my lieutenant, and there
Wow.
were officers that were setting me up, and I proved that in court. So I was trained in critical incident stress management, how to deal with things. And then prior to the 9/11 disaster, I was called on an assignment to report to a chemical plant that blew up. I think it was in Belmar. Um, and I had to go debrief the people that worked there. There was a couple guys that put the wrong mixture in the tanks with the chemicals and it blew up and it exploded them up into the rafters of that building. And I had to go and deal with them, scrape the remains off the ceiling. And
Oh
if I
dear.
wasn't trained in that, and by the grace of God, I don't know how I would have done it. It was proper training. Like
Yeah.
Director Roland Candle went through 2 tours in Vietnam and he helped me through it. He said, I need you. Ask them where they were. What did they see? What did they feel? Don't let them get away with saying I'm fine. They're not. Nobody's
Right.
fine through that. So right after that, and I did a really good job. And then I got the call. They said I was actually asked to assist in that immediately, and he said it was from the higher ups. He said, I don't know how your name came up. And I said, well, what do you mean the higher ups? And I'm thinking, oh, no, that's state police. They're trying to set me up. They're trying to kill me now. And it's like, no, we're talking about the office of the president. And they did an investigation and they said, I need you. I need you to be my foot soldier. I'll be in the office the whole time, answering calls and organizing and departmentalizing and all this, and I know that, with your background, you can do it, but you have to relay accurate information, and you better stay on that radio and answer my every single call that I call you on to activate and help me dispatch and clear everybody, including the FBI, that's going to be coming down, because they didn't even trust them.
So this was you're referencing 9/11 at this point, where you
Yes, at 9/11, yeah,
Okay.
September 11th.
Wow. So
And
you were on the scene you were on the scene for how long? A long time, I suspect.
4 months.
Wow.
I had to walk that 1 mile radius. When I got there, I had to, first I left my house. I had to pack like for a week, he said. He goes, but you're going to be here for the duration. And I never left, really. But I had to wait for a statey to get them to disclose a place where I was to meet them. And I went to Newark train station, left my car. They put a sticker on it that it was police property at that point. Then a statey had to take me to another undisclosed point. Another statey picked me up. They had to get me across that bridge that was closed to everyone. So they got me across the bridge. I ended up at Journal Square, and I was ordered to go. The state trooper took me to the site in order to see if I can handle it. And when I got there, I was just overwhelmed.
Yeah.
There was so much carnage. There was just, all I saw was at least 5 buildings that were imploded. And I'm standing there saying, 2 planes didn't do this. And I saw the Windows of the World that I played in New York, that big restaurant, the glass.
Oh, yeah. I hate
Yes.
It was on its side, hanging vicariously.
Wow.
I wanted to cry, but I couldn't. It was past that. It was past tears. I don't know what you call that. I went so many levels up. And then I got.
So I'm sorry to interrupt, but when you say that you thought more than 2 planes did this, are you insinuating or saying that there may have been bombs or something else that created that mess?
From what I understand, those planes were already guided into those buildings. There's nothing the pilot could have done.
Right, right.
And the buildings were imploded because they were flat to the ground. The only thing that most of us realized that entered that scene was the fact that the good part was nobody could have survived. They were dead instantly. I mean, but the top layer, there was so much carnage. I still, I'm going to therapy. Yesterday I had to go see my counselor, because those things visit me in my dream.
Sure.
There was, on the top of the pile, I still remember this artificial leg with a sneaker on it. And and all in the trees were all people's clothing. They were like blown out of their clothes.
Yeah.
And quite a few sneakers were on the ground. I remember these people ran out of their shoes that were running that made it possibly. And I remember just body parts. And it was
hard. That's hard.
So what a transition from that to La La Land in Hollywood, really.
Yeah.
Thankfully, it was for you.
Yeah.
Well, it took me a while. I had to be debriefed in headquarters. I didn't want to go. That was an ordeal. Because I got there and I'm like, I had an attitude. I was so angry and I didn't realize it. I was staying in my house. I wouldn't leave. I didn't want to see anybody. I didn't want to go out. Sure. All the things that I was trained to debrief others and not doing, and I didn't see them myself.
Right.
I couldn't talk about it. Every time I turned the TV on, I saw more, BS about 9/11 that really wasn't true. Mm-hmm. And they kept showing you the planes, just showing, and I'm like, it angered me. It just angered me. It was so much brainwashing to get people to just, and then why would you terrorize people further? Why would you do that? They already know, constantly.
Yeah.
Then the movie, and so finally, I was mandatory to go into headquarters and get debriefed. So I walked in, and the head guys there were like, welcome, and I was locked in. And And I'm like, how's this going to work? What are you going to, you can't debrief me. I know what you're doing. You're debriefing me. That's what I do.
Right.
You know, where was I? What did I see? I don't even want to talk about it because nobody wants to hear it, not even my family. They don't even believe I was there. It's like, how would you be there, you know? And then I was hearing stories about so many people like, I had a cousin that was there. No, you didn't. You weren't there. I would have cleared you. I would have seen you. I would have
Right.
remembered
Right.
walking around that, you know? And then that angered me. So then they put me in a room in headquarters with this EDM machine with the lights. They hooked me up to a blood pressure cup, and it was like a lie detector test, I swear to God. And I said, I know what you're doing.
Yeah.
And he said, well, we're going to use this for educational purposes. I said, okay, I'm along with this, you know, for educational, like what you would, they scam me, like I like try to get, they debrief me on the next level, and like I would do, and they're like, this is going to be so helpful, like what we need to know, like somebody that's right there, what they're going through and how it affects your, you know. So all of a sudden the EDM lights are going and I'm relaxed and I'm like, sure, ask me what you want. Man, I told them everything all the way down to when I was 3 years old and I wanted a piano. Honest to God, it's all on tape. And I told them everything. You know, they couldn't find the blueprints to the building, and it was, you know, was set up, and there was so many. It was the cleaning help, you know, that was involved in this. They looked like cleaning help, like after hours, because there were like horses down the street, and they were redirecting the streets that were in that area, and they weren't even cleared. They couldn't find the paperwork. They gave them a permit, but police and everybody never thought like to check the, you know, was this
Well,
cleared through the, you know, city hall and all, like,
that whole, so I'll take it from a civilian point of view. That whole space after the buildings fell is a crime scene, correct?
exactly.
And so your job was to protect the crime scene from being disturbed as much as possible. I mean, in all that debris, I don't know how you do that, but so when you're debriefing and you're talking to them, are they asking you questions about, well, did anybody else come in there and do something? Or they steal body parts? Or, I mean, what
No,
is
they
it that they
cut.
were getting at?
Well, this was headquarters, so they kind of basically knew everything, and that was my point. Like, you had everything on log, you know all this, but they wanted to ask me what I saw, um, and some of the things weren't in the report. Like the blueprints were missing for the buildings. There was also an order that the buildings were supposed to come down because of asbestos, and
Right.
those the big shots that own them didn't want to do that. They'd have to relocate all those offices and bring the, you know, the amount of work and money.
Right.
So at the same time, while they brought the buildings down, they also they put blame elsewhere, and it, you know, it was like kill two birds with one stone, because you're talking about people that are evil, like the ones that are running things today. It's all the same government. That's that hidden government that have the money and they have the control. And I don't care if you're the president, you have to do what they say. I know for a fact, I've seen it.
It's called
Or
the deep
else.
state.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's really deep. So you pray to God.
Yeah.
But I do know one thing that I did mention when I went to the memorial yesterday, and I should have talked about this before. The one thing that happened was the first person that I activated and dispatched and clear was Connie Schneider. And after the 4 months, um, when we first got to the mound, she was like real tough, you know, and gruff, and like she was kind of built big, and she was from Cape May with the rescue squad. So she's like, okay, like, what do you need me to do? You know, and I'm like, that's a red flag, because even the biggest officers and firefighters, they're wailing and crying, you screaming in the distance, all around us. So you can't tell me you're a tough guy. Like, what's going on?
Yeah. You
So
can
then
see
all of
it.
us, yeah, and I'm like, she's overcompensating. I don't know if she's going to be able to be on this team because I had to evaluate her immediately, all of them. So then suddenly, she's smoking a cigarette, and then she went to put it down, and she looked up. Uh, I said this at the ceremony too yesterday. So she went to look up, and I saw her face. She looked up, and she's going like this, and I'm like, "Are you okay? What's wrong?" And she just pointed, and she was frozen with her mouth open, and she's like, "What is that?" And the church bells were ringing, and I said, "The church bells?" She said, "Yeah." She said, "Nobody's supposed to be in there." And I said, "I know. There's no electric or water or gas that's in the city. Everything's turned off."
Right.
And of course nobody's in there because that's one of the buildings that remained, the church. It was eerie. So
Yeah.
then she started shaking and pointing again. And she goes, "What's that?" And she was scared. And I said, "You mean the angel?" And she was like just shaking her head. And she went to pick up her cigarette out of the ground because now she realized, and like I did immediately, this is hallowed ground. This giant foot covered the whole Tower One. It was like this, like an effervescence that was in the air. It was like luminescent. And the one giant foot was detailed, was on Tower One, and the other one was on Tower Two. And as you looked up at this figure, the muscles and the legs and the knees, and then this armor, and it was like this loincloth, and then all the way up to the sky was the shoulders, and then it was an angel with like these electric blue eyes, and he was so angry, and it scared the daylights out of me when I first saw it because I thought it was a devil or something on
Right.
that site.
Right.
But I realized it was Michael the Archangel. And
So basically straddling the two towers and being a
yes,
presence.
and
Wow.
all of this light was, and like bubbles, like when you blow bubbles, were going through the illuminescence all the way through his body straight up, and that's what the light is that we saw. Many firefighters that still are alive that responded will remember that, and they didn't talk about it, except their chiefs told me. When I told them, I said, "Don't worry, it's going to be okay." I said, "Actually, there's an angel on there. It's hallowed ground." And I'm telling you, God's anger, you can't imagine right now. He said, "I know a few of my firefighters told me about that, but we didn't talk about it." But so then 4 months after I was home, that's when the tour duty ended. And after New Year's, we stayed for uh, Thanksgiving, well, Halloween. It was, we didn't want any more disasters happening. We didn't know who did it or why or what
Right. Right.
outside of the site. Then we stayed all the way through to Thanksgiving with their families and all, and the firefighters, and Christmas, and then we stayed for New Year's. We didn't want them to drink. We didn't want them to be suicidal because it was still fresh in their head. It was too
Sure.
much.
Yeah.
So then after the 4 months, I get a phone call. It was like 10 o'clock at night. I had my neighbor in the kitchen with me, and I'm like, "Who the heck?" She's like, "Who is this?" I said, "I don't know." And I see Sism Connie Schneider. I said, "Hold on a second." So I answered the phone, and she's like, "Jervis, and this is Connie." I said, "Yeah." I said, What's up?" I'm like, "Are we being activated again?" And she's like, "No, I need you to get your butt up here." She's like, I said, "Where?" And she said, "I'm at a hospital in Trenton. Just get up here. I need to talk to you." And I said, "Now?" She said, "Yeah, I'll tell you when you get here." So I'm thinking there's a disaster at the Trenton Hospital, right?
Right. Yeah.
Which is a far ways away at 10 o'clock at night in the night. So I get myself together. I go with my neighbor. She was a witness to this. She's still alive. And I drive up to the hospital, flash my bag, which enabled me to get in there. And I go to see her. She's dying of cancer.
Yeah.
And I said, "Oh my God." I said, "You had cancer?" And she said, "Not before I was activated." So I immediately felt guilt, like it was my fault. And my head was wandering again, like, "Oh my God, how many people did I do this to?" And I'm still alive, and I'm like, she said, "You know why I called you up here?" And I said, "Oh my God." I said, I don't know." I said, I wish you would have told me, like, what's going on?" And she said, "Listen, I'm fine. I just want you to tell people we saw what we saw and we heard what we heard." I
Wow.
said, "Connie, it's all over the news and everywhere. It's still out there." And she said, "That's not what I'm talking about." I said, "It's angering me. I can't even watch TV at all." She said, "That's not what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about." And I said, "The angel?" She said, "Yes. You need to tell others about the angel." She said, "I'm dying." It was 2 days later she passed. She said, "I'm dying, but I need you to, make sure you tell others
Right,
about
Lord.
what we saw." And
Wow.
it wasn't until yesterday I finally told the story, because
Wow.
uh, I've been called so many things in the meantime, and I didn't want to talk about it. I'm still going to counseling, and I just didn't want to bring it up. And
Well,
who would believe that? And
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
it's look, this is a personal thing that you witnessed something you had apparently other firefighters saw, so it's
yeah,
real. Um,
yeah.
I want to get to something that you talked about this Schneider who had cancer. So you were on this site for 4 months. What did you do to protect yourself? And let's hope to God that you haven't had any issues from health wise, because that's a long time to be around all that contaminated material.
Exactly. Um, I went to Dr. Ciccone, who was a holistic doctor, and I started taking chelation treatments, which I continued even in LA. I can't find anybody here that does it that's not like an hour or two away. In West Virginia, it's kind of hard. But chelation therapy, they, with a holistic doctor, this doctor, he was so interested in wanting to help me. I said, "Doc, can you do anything to detox me from all the things I ingested?" He said, "I don't know, but I'm going to try." He said, "This is fascinating to me and it's amazing. And I always wanted to know what I could do helping people like yourself as soon as I saw what was happening and what you were exposed to." So he took all my levels. That's what a holistic doctor does. He wanted to know all my nutrition levels first, is what my iron looked like, what all my vitamins, all minerals, and then all the toxins. He took blood work on that. He took saliva samples. He took uh, stuff in my nose, the nasal cavity, my urine, even fecal samples, and he sent them to all types of testing um, around the world. And then he was able to find out how to bring me back up with my minerals and my vitamins. And then we worked from there. And he put a concoction together, which was a Myers cocktail, which means it's a lot of vitamin C and a lot of different vitamins that I was lacking. Then he also took all the details of what was in my body. I had gadolinium, cadmium. I had things that you would not be having
Right.
in your body unless you were in a smelting factory with steel. It was aerosolized steel I was ingesting in my lungs and my body, my brain cells, all that, and mercury, high
Yeah.
levels of mercury, and I just kept sitting in the chair like with other chemo patients for like an hour or 2 hour long it took for that to go through my body and for me to pass it through my urine and everything and go
Kind of
back
flush
to.
out your system. Yeah.
And I think that's why I'm still here today.
Wow.
My God.
Wow.
God.
It's quite a story. And
Yes.
I don't want this to be a therapy session, but when you made an interesting point that when you talked to Schneider and she was dying of cancer, you felt bad about that you let her in. But it really wasn't your choice. I mean, you were there, they were there to help.
Right.
And I know you feel bad about it, and I
Yeah.
can't imagine how you wouldn't feel bad. But that's
Yeah.
another burden that you carry, and
Hmm.
hopefully you can deal with that and
You're
realize that.
you're one of the heroes of
Yeah, you're
9/11,
one of the
really.
heroes. Exactly.
Thank
Yeah.
God for people like you. I
Yeah.
mean,
I don't know if I could have done that. To be
yeah,
quite honest with you. But you know
And you
what?
know,
But one more thing, and I realized this because everyone has had tragedies in their life. When you're faced with a tragedy,
right.
it's amazing what the human spirit can do. You rise above and you work through it. And I've had situations in my life, and I'm sure everybody has, that where you're like, what the hell just hit me? And you
Yeah.
step up and you get it done. So, and that's exactly what you did. You stepped up and you got it
Yeah.
done. And thank God there are people like you that could do that. You represent the incredible generosity of human spirit. And so,
You
don't be
rise up out of your body.
you do. You
Father
do.
Father von Hartleben, I still remember this, and even our school song, of course, "Soar Eagle Soar," like it was all around me. And
Right.
Father Hartleben gave us a talk about Avis and Hertz rent-a-car in the very first talk when we entered ninth grade, my first year, and he gave all the freshmen a talk about. I think Avis was second best, but just like Paul VI over Camden Catholic, we can be number one,
Right.
but in a nice way. And going through those things in my life and all different things in my life, I understand now what the Vietnam vets that were in our class used to talk about: flashbacks, PTSD,
Yeah.
nightmares. Everything reminds me of 9/11. I can't see a fire truck or a firefighter or a man in uniform without having a flashback of them lined
Right.
up in front of me, or even construction equipment. But
Yeah.
I do know that at the ceremony, the speech I gave, when I said, I want to just tell you one thing, and I told them about the angel, and they all nodded their heads. And I said, I want you to know, even with all the devastation going on around us today, I want you to know that God is with us and all of his angels are still around us. And at that point, the church bells across the street began ringing, and then right after that stopped, the city hall chimes rang at 10 o'clock, 10 times, and then I said, "I'm going to leave you with that." And they
Wow.
were in tears, some of them, and
Wow.
I knew God was with me in that speech because that's the message, And thank
Yeah.
God for all of our discipline that we had to go through, which made us stronger, and our faith that we were taught, especially in that high school.
Right.
And we were fortunate enough to know each other because we're the ones that are going to make a difference.
Yeah.
And there's always a bad egg in the group, but that doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't. No. You rise above.
Yeah.
Right.
Just like the eagle, soar, and win your way to glory.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
In my
Well,
heart.
Marianne, I want to wrap this up
Yes.
because we've gone longer than we usually do, but this has been fascinating conversation.
Yes, it has.
And it was well worth spending the extra time to have you tell your story about what actually
Mhm.
happened, not only in your musical career, which sounds fantastic, and that's a gift that you have in sharing with the world, but the 9/11 thing, there's no words. There's no words.
This is a good show. This was really interesting.
Yeah, yeah.
I
Thank you for
hope
doing
Thank you
this
very much.
impresses. I hope this makes an impact on the other students here and to come, that everything that we were taught in Paul VI did make a difference, and to hang in there no matter how tough it seems. When they
Yeah,
tell you good, better, best never rests until your good's better and your better's best, you
yeah,
become this. You run podcasts that reach people's hearts and teach them lessons. You never, ever, ever believe that not any good works go unblessed.
right.
Thank
Exactly.
you for
Well
joining
said.
us. We
And remember
really
God.
appreciate it. Yes.
Yeah. Thank
Well,
you.
Thank you.
you for letting me share that
No,
message.
thank you for sharing it.
Thank you.
We
God bless you.
appreciate
Take it easy
and,
now.
we'll put this up on the usual places, and we'll spread the
And I'll
word.
make sure
and, I think
Paul
we're
Six
gonna,
gets a copy of it too.
yeah, we're going to get some good viewership out of this, and we'll share
Yes.
the results with you. All right,
Thank you.
we're going to sign out. Take care.
Try to be good.
Yes.
We always are. Always are.
Take care.
Bye.